Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Life Worth Reading. Today, I want to talk about some books that I have absolutely loved in the past and that I think are really underrated here on BookTube. I am guiding myself on what underrated means by one criteria, that is ratings on Goodreads, and then another one is that if I hear a lot of people talking about these books or not. Obviously, there might be some oversight on my part. Maybe these books are more well-loved than I have realized, but again, I just want to shout them out and recommend to you a few books that I think are really underrated. Most of these I do not own physically. I really have to work on that and to acquire some more books that I have loved in the past physically. I only have a couple of them, but without further ado, let's just get right into it. The first book that I want to talk about is a book that I feel like you have heard me discuss in the past, and I'm going to bring it up again because it still has less than 3,000 ratings on Goodreads, which is really criminal, and that is To Be Young, Gifted and Black by Lorraine Hansberry. This is an informal biography, so it really is just about Lorraine Hansberry's life. She was a very talented playwright in the 50s, 60s. She was really great friends with James Baldwin, and she wrote the play A Raisin. This is shaking a little bit. She wrote the play A Raisin in the Sun, which went on Broadway for a couple of years. I still haven't read the play, but I absolutely loved this informal biography, memoir, whatever you want to call it, because I loved learning more about Lorraine Hansberry. I think that she is such an interesting and just really talented person, author. I really enjoyed this book, and I feel like there was just something about it that made me really connect with who Lorraine Hansberry was as a person. Unfortunately, she did pass away quite young due to a long illness, and you can actually kind of see that during the book, and it's really heartbreaking because it's one of those talented people that really just left a little bit too early. But I really admired her brilliance, and this book is also told through letters, journal entries. We have exchange of letters between like people that are fans of her and her responses to those people, and it's just really amazing. We also have excerpts from her plays in between, and it was such a unique reading experience, and it just taught me so much about someone that I did not know. And so I am passing on the torch to you if you want to learn more about Lorraine Hansberry. I think that this is a really beautiful book, and it really touched me, and I really appreciate who this person was as an artist. And I still have to read A Raisin in the Sun because I feel like that's going to be a really great read. Next up, I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite books. If you've been here for a while, you have heard me talk about this book, but that is Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francesca Chiuazzi. This book has just something so special in it, but it still has, I think, 12,000 ratings, which feels really low to me because this book is absolutely brilliant. It follows two twin sisters in Lagos, Nigeria, and they grow up and something really traumatic happens during their childhood, and it follows them as they go through life, their separate ways, and them coming back to one of their weddings in their hometown. So it really just follows their relationships, but also who they are as individuals and who they are as sisters, and intergenerational trauma. And it also has like a bit of like folklore and mythology and religion, and it's just, the writing is absolutely gorgeous of this book. The writing is exceptional, and everything about this book is so incredible to me. I just feel like this touched something that I just didn't know could be touched inside of me, and I have been thinking about this book ever since I read it. I have reread it a couple of times, and it's just one of my all-time favorite books. I think that this book is absolutely beautiful, and I think that you should definitely give it a try. Please give it a try if you feel like you will enjoy it. If you like family drama, kind of, if you like sister dynamics, I don't know, if you like exploring intergenerational trauma, I don't know. I just think that this book is incredible, and I'm trying to get everyone to read it, and I cannot wait to see what this author comes out with next. Next up, I want to recommend another memoir that I read that I think is absolutely amazing, and that is Hola Papi, How to Come Out in a Walmart Parking Lot by John Paul Brommer. I listened to the audiobook for this memoir, and I just had the best time with it. It's one of the most memorable reading, listening experiences that I've ever had. I think John Paul Brammer is so funny. He's such a talented author. But honestly, this book just really strikes the balance between comical and sad at times. It's about his experiences growing up mixed race, growing up queer, and just how he dealt with whatever life threw his way. But what makes this book really interesting, in my opinion, is the way that it's built. It is questions and answers. So John Paul Brammer has a column in a magazine, and basically this memoir is built by people asking him questions and him replying to them, and also telling them a little bit about himself and his story and how it intersects with the question that they're asking. I just had a beautiful grand old time with this book. Again, so sad but also so comical. John Paul Brammer is really funny and humorous, and I just loved this audiobook so much. I cannot wait on the physical copy of it, but it's actually really, really hard to find. And this book also has, I think, I wrote this down, it has under 10,000 ratings. That is criminal. That is criminal. This is such a great memoir, and I think that you should definitely give it a try. And the audiobook is definitely the way to go. Next up, I want to recommend City of Thieves by David Benioff. This is a book that has a lot of ratings, but it's not really talked about because it came out a couple of years ago. I think it was in the beginning of the 2000s, so a long time ago. And I thought it was a very, very interesting World War II book because it's basically set in Russia, and it follows our main character who is thrown in jail, and basically he meets someone else, another, I don't remember if they're soldiers or not. I have read this quite a while ago, but he meets someone else and they're put on this hunt. If you want to survive and if you don't want to be executed, you will have to go on a mission to find the captain 12 eggs. So a dozen eggs so he can make a wedding cake for his daughter who is getting married. But that is very, very hard. It's a very, very difficult task because Russia is going through a winter and a famine and a devastating war. So where will they find 12 eggs? So it seems like a comical setup, and it is a little bit comical at times, but it's also devastating. This book is very, very sad as well. It does not shy away from the graphicness of war. It does not shy away from the bad things that happen during a war. And it's a very, very interesting book. I think that if you're also tired of World War II books, as I am, I think that this is a really great one, and this is a story that is worth telling, in my opinion. I think that it adds something to the World War II fiction books universe, and I just really, really loved it at the time. Again, very impactful. It is very difficult to read at times, but I think that David Benioff really did something that I still think about to this day. So I would definitely recommend that as well. It has a lot more ratings, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it, and I think that it should be more talked about because I think it's a really great book. Then I would also like to recommend Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. Yoko Ogawa, obviously a very beloved author. She is the author of The Memory Police. She is also the author of The Teacher and Housekeeper, maybe, and Hotel Iris. But this is a short story collection for my fans of horror. If you like horror, I thought that this, I'm gonna be honest, I read this book 5 years ago, 5 long years ago. I am due for a reread, but I just remember that at the time, at least, I was really fascinated with this short story collection because they're all intertwined. But again, I don't remember how, so I can't even spoil it for you. I don't remember how the stories are intertwined, but I remember that they were kind of grotesque, and I just had a really great time when I was reading it. And again, a very beloved author, but I feel like her other books get a lot more talked about, and I think that this weird little horror book should be talked about more. I'm definitely due for a reread because I love a good short story collection, especially a horror one, and I just remember some of the stories, but I don't exactly remember how they intersect. And I think that's also one of the best parts about reading this book, is finding out how the stories are all tied up together. So I really want to experience that again, and I definitely recommend, if you like horror, if you like Yoko Ogawa's writing, this is a very weird little book that I think that you should read. Another book that I think is severely underrated is Optic Nerve by Maria Gainza. This is an Argentine author, if I'm not mistaken, and this book felt a little bit like a fever dream. I don't know I don't quite know how to explain it to you. It's about our main character who is a big fan of art. She loves a lot of artists, a lot of art, like actual paintings and stuff. And so this book is intertwined between her life as this main character who loves art and the stories of the painters, and like facts about the painters who painted them, and interesting stories intersect between it. So I also read this book 3 years ago, and it's kind of a blur at this point, but I remember at the time I really loved it, and I also loved finding out more about artists that I had not previously known about. I remember reading this book and like googling, who is this artist, who is this painter, and then seeing all their paintings and seeing if I like them or not, and just like really connecting with what they were talking about. And I feel like it taught me a lot. And it's very much about art. Obviously, it's about a visual art, it's about our relationships with paintings, and I thought it was so interesting. It's very hard to explain. I'm also due for a reread at this point because it's, again, kind of like a fever dream at this point. But I think that if you like art, this is a very interesting book that has, I don't know, 7,000 ratings or something like that. So it's very, very underrated, but I think it's so interesting. And it really did something that is unlike any other book that I've read so far. So if you like art, I definitely recommend that one, because at least you will be finding out more about painters you might not previously have known about. And I think that just for that, it's well worth the read. This book that I'm going to be talking about next is a book that I feel like is more talked about on BookTube, but it really does not reflect in terms of the ratings on Goodreads, because it still has, let me check, only 11,000 ratings. But that is Fina by Nino Cipri. I heard about this book because of Kayla from Books and Lala, and I actually really enjoyed this as well. This is set in a fictional IKEA-like store where there are these portals to other universes, to like the multiverse, and these two workers have to journey across one of the portals to bring back a customer who got lost. But the thing about it is that they are ex-partners. So we have our main character Jules and Ava. Yeah, Ava and Jules, and they are ex-partners, which really complicates the dynamic of this book. So it's really all about, not only is it about capitalism and making fun of a system that exploits workers, but it's also about love and loss and how to deal with a breakup and how to move forward with your life and what you're doing with your life. And I thought this was really fun, but at the same time it really struck an emotional chord that I wasn't expecting. The ending especially was very intense, which I didn't expect going into it. I thought it would be just like a funny, silly book, but it was actually so much more than that. And I think that's why I recommend it so highly, because it really does something that is so interesting in about 130 pages. You can read this in one sitting, and it is silly, but isn't life silly? You know, it's kind of like that. It's the feeling of, yes, this is a very silly premise, but life itself is also really silly, but there are also really emotional moments in it. And I'm rambling, this is not making any sense, but I think this is worth a read, and I thought it would have more ratings because it has been more talked about in recent time. But if you still haven't read it, I think you should give it a try, and I think you'll have a good time with it. I am almost done, I promise, but now talking about 2 YA books that I think are very underrated. I have never read a lot of YA. It's not that I've grown out of YA. Even when I got back into reading, which was 2017, 2018, around that time, I was 18 years old and I was already kind of growing out of YA. YA fantasy is something, but like YA contemporaries especially, I've never read a lot of them. The ones that I have read aren't my favorites. I'm also not the target audience, but these 2 I think are so worth the read. The first one is Starfish by Akemi. Okay, so the author's name is Akemi Dawn Bowman. That's it. And Starfish is basically about our main character Kiko, who is at a crossroads in her life. She has just finished high school and she has applied to 2 major universities, and I think I remember that she was either rejected from one of them or rejected for both of them, and she decides to do like a cross-country, not a university visit, yeah, I think she visits the university across the United States, but it's really all about her relationship with this boy who is her friend, but also about herself, honestly, and growing up mixed race and growing up in a household that does not value her Asian side because she's half Japanese, and she encounters an older man who really encourages her to embrace her heritage. And it's just a really beautiful story. I remember that I read this in one day. I don't know why, something about it, it was just that specific day, that specific book, something about it really spoke to me at the time, and I absolutely loved this little YA contemporary. I really cannot explain why. I thought it was really beautiful. I've never felt pulled to reread it or anything, but it was just one of those YA books that I think about very fondly, which doesn't happen a lot. And it also only has like about 11,000 ratings, so I think that if you're looking for a good YA contemporary, this is definitely a great one. And the other YA book that I want to talk about is definitely a more harrowing one. It's The Weight of Our Sky by Hannah Halkoff. This book only has 6,000 ratings, which is diabolical. You all need to be reading this book. And this book is so heartbreaking. It's about our main character who suffers with OCD, but she doesn't really realize that it's OCD because in her culture, bad thoughts or negative thought patterns are discussed as being jinn, as being something religious, as being something that is entirely paranormal. And so she is grappling with that struggle. And while she's struggling with that, we are going through, this is the 1960s, and we are currently, Malaysia is undergoing race riots, really huge race riots in Kuala Lumpur. And so our main character suddenly finds herself thrown apart from her mother, and she is just trying to grapple with all that is happening. This is a very sad book. It's very chaotic, but I thought it was so beautiful, and I really admired what this book did, but it really hurt. It really hurt. It really did. But I think that it's a beautiful YA historical fiction if you want to check it out. I still have to read other books by this author because I think that they are so talented, but this book hurt me so bad in ways that I really cannot spoil for you, but it's really something. And finally, the last two books that I want to recommend are, first of all, The Secret Lives of Church Leadings by Disha Philwa. This book is amazing, short story collection. You have to read the audiobook. This has a couple more ratings. It's under 40,000, I think, but I still thought I could bring this up because it is an amazing audiobook and it's such a great listening experience. It's one of my favorite short story collections of all time. I still think about a couple of them a lot. Like it's very memorable, or at least it was for me, and I think that it's absolutely worth the read. If you find yourself with that audiobook, give it a try because I feel like you will not regret it. And lastly, I want to recommend, where is it? Oh, it's here. Love After Love by Ingrid Persad. This book only has 12,000 ratings, which again, criminal. It's about our main character. I don't remember the names of anyone. Oh my god. What are their names? We have Betty and her shy son Solo, yes, and Mr. Chitan, who lives with them. So they form like this a really unconventional household. But then Solo discovers something about his mother and runs away to New York. And it's really about this family and just what love, grief, loss means to all of them. The thing that I love most about this book was the writing, because it is set in the Caribbean, and the rhythm of the writing just really mimicked like a Caribbean accent in my head. Like the way that the narrative flowed just really felt so oral. I read this physically, but I could hear it all in my head, and it had such a nice rhythm to it, and I really admire the writing of this. The story is very sad, it's very frustrating at times, but it's a really beautiful story. But the writing of this is so incredible, and I feel like it did something that I've yet to read again. Like it just rhythmically just worked so well, and I have yet to read any other book like it. Okay, so these are a couple of books that I think are very underrated, but I feel like are well worth the read. Again, I do need to own most of these. I have I have to work on that to build up my collection. But if you feel like you could enjoy these books, please give them a try, because I feel like they are well worth your time. And let me know if you would like me to do a part 2 of this, because I have a couple of other books that I feel like are very underrated and that I don't hear about enough. So let me know if you would like that. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. Follow me on TikTok, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and always remember that life is worth reading.